freelancers are always in their cars. And the reason for that is we're piecing together an income from several different places or organizations, doing like wedding gigs, private students, teaching at adjunct colleges, playing in different regional orchestras, subbing in full-time orchestras, playing for pickup orchestras, and all these things are not all in the same city. And so you need to live in a centrally located area. And probably to illustrate my point the best with the driving is to say that many freelancers play in regional orchestras, are members of several regional orchestras. And if you're not sure what that is, I did do a video describing what that is and the details around it. So I will link that in the description if you want to check that out. So there are some regional orchestras kind of within the urban sprawl of a big city, but it also, they can spread out and be all over the place within 5 hours of driving from your main city. And also subbing in full-time orchestras is another good gig that requires a lot of driving. I'll give the example of from myself when I was living in Chicago and freelancing a ton. So I'm living in Chicago and, I did play, there are a lot of orchestras and gigs available right in that city. It's a big city. So other than Chicago Symphony, there is Chicago Philharmonic, Chicago Opera Theater, there's the Grant Park Symphony Summer Festival, there's Lyric Opera of Chicago, and several others right there in the city. And so that's super convenient because I could just take a subway to those gigs. But often I was in my car driving out to the regional orchestras, which could be anywhere from 1 to 5 hours in any direction from Chicago. So looking north from Chicago, going up the coastline, several of those towns have their own regional orchestras. Evanston, there's a Lake Forest Symphony, it's up there somewhere. And then you get up past the border into Wisconsin. There's Kenosha that has a regional orchestra. Racine has a regional orchestra. And then even further up, Milwaukee, that's a full-time orchestra. But I would drive up there a lot to sub in that orchestra. And that's probably all the way up to Milwaukee would take a couple of hours. And then if it's snowing and it's a concert, I would have to leave 4 hours to make sure I get there. So I could maybe get there in 2 hours, but then I'm sitting in my car having dinner for the next hour and a half or so. And there's also the Wisconsin Chamber Orchestra, which is up in Madison. There's also the Madison Symphony. That's another scene up there. To the west of Chicago, the ones I'm familiar with are the Elgin Symphony. I was a member of that. So it's about an hour and a half away of driving, although it can take 3 hours. Again, it just depends on if there's snow or construction or traffic. And then even further away from that, adding another hour west, is the Rockford Symphony, another regional orchestra, which I played in a lot. To the south of Chicago, there's a lot of regional orchestras. I'm just not familiar with them as much, but I know further down in Illinois, there's the Illinois Philharmonic, the Illy Philly, as we called it, and the Illinois Symphony, or the Springfield Symphony, or something. I don't remember now. But there's regional orchestras down there. To get down there to Springfield, that's like 5 hours away. And then coming around to the east, you're getting up into Indiana. There's the South Bend Symphony. Fort Wayne, Indiana has a symphony. Northwest Indiana is a symphony. If you keep going, there's like Kalamazoo. Oh, is that Michigan now? I think that's Michigan. So Kalamazoo has a symphony. There's like Grand Rapids, of course, I believe that's a full-time, so that's subbing opportunities. And there's like the Southwest Michigan Symphony, so there's all this opportunity to sub or be a member of these orchestras. But what that means is you wouldn't live in like Kalamazoo. I mean, somebody lives there, but if you're a freelancer doing all of these, this whole radius that I just went over, you're not really living in Kalamazoo. You would live in Chicago, so you're centrally located, and also to have the opportunity to play in those bigger name orchestras. And then you travel, like I said, in the 5 hour driving radius around that. So another point that I've mentioned in some video about the essentials of freelancing is that location is vital to having a freelance career. You have to live in a place that actually has freelancing opportunities, and Chicago is one of them. So I know many times I would have a rehearsal way up in Milwaukee, so I'd have to allow for 3 hours to get up there, 2-3 hours to get up there, do my rehearsal in the daytime, and then maybe even a double up there, and then drive all the way back down and all the way west over to Elgin or Rockford or somewhere and do a concert that night, which would be between Milwaukee to Elgin is 2 or 3 hours, and then you've got that 2 or 3 hours to get all the way back home. I mean, some of these drives, I'm saying 2 to 3 hours can be one, but it never is. It's always about 2 hour minimum just because of traffic. It'll take an entire hour just to get out of the city of Chicago, for example, just to get out of the city limits before you're actually getting anywhere. So yeah, a freelancer's car is filthy, for one. It's got all the bugs, splattered across the front windshield like you've been on an amazing road trip, but really it's just a road trip to gigs every single day. And the inside is just full of food wrappers and empty coffee cups. We always have, it's like a second home, kind of. Like we have a spare set of Concert Black in the trunk, extra shoes are in the trunk. Definitely have a toiletries bag with us at all times that has a toothbrush, toothpaste, hairbrush. Also, like things like safety pins. Some people actually have sewing kits, little, travel sewing kits, stuff like that. So you have that with you all the time because you're on the road all the time. There is a great book by a colleague of mine, Jason Heath, double bass, and we played together in the Elgin Symphony way back in the early 2000s. And he was also a freelancer. But he wrote this book about the freelancing experience called The Road Warrior Without an Expense Account. About the life of a freelance musician. It's really excellent. Highly recommend if you're getting into music as a career, which will likely be as a freelancer. And I know he has, one of the chapters is all about the regional orchestra experience, just like what I'm talking about now, how you're just driving all over the place. It's very much part of a freelancer's career. So this should give you kind of a good idea of what it's like to be a freelancer in the classical orchestral world. And if there are any freelancers out there who have stories to tell, please drop those in the comments. We freelancers tell each other all our road warrior stories, but it would probably be helpful to other people just starting out to see the kinds of things we run into, like how to find parking, dealing with driving in the snow, having a good car that will drive a lot of miles, carpooling scene, and stories of your car breaking down and somebody else, like another member of the orchestra. Now we have our cell phones so easy. We call and like, can you pick me up on your way? I'm on I-94 at the something or other exit, off to the side. And that's happened before because you absolutely have to get to the gig. No excuses, especially as a sub. There are so many stories that involve being in the car. And please hit subscribe. If you're a freelancer or getting into freelancing, I would encourage you to check out my existing videos all about freelancing, especially stage etiquette, how to navigate freelancing, how to get into freelancing, the freelancing essentials, all this stuff. So I'm putting up a lot of new videos all about freelancing all the time, and then you'll get that notification. And as always, if anybody has any questions or want clarification about anything, just drop that in the comments. And I'm always very responsive to that. Okay, so thanks for watching, and I will see you at the next video.